Hello guys, welcome back to another video on the Stratus Forecast Weather channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about the major storm that is going to be impacting the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and New England area tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night as well into early Thursday morning. So what we're going to be talking about today is that, and it's going to bring along, there's basically going to be this low pressure system that rides up the eastern seaboard. It's already forming in parts of the southeastern United States, and where it is at right now, it's already bringing a pretty intense line of thunderstorms deep in the southeast, where they have a marginal and slight risk of severe weather down there for damaging winds and tornadoes. Now, I don't think we're going to get quite to that criteria of tornadoes up here, but I definitely think the wind will be a big issue. So, we're going to start off the video by talking about the watches and warnings and advisories that have been issued by the National Weather Service as of now. We're also going to be going over the severe weather potential going into tomorrow into Thursday, or Wednesday night into Thursday, I should say. And then we're going to be taking a look at the weather models as far as radar goes, and we're also going to be taking a look at all the ingredients that are there for any potential severe weather, any severe weather really. We're also going to be going over the rainfall amounts along with the snowfall amounts, because there's going to be a little bit of snow that gets pulled in there from the west with those sharp northwesterly winds coming on the backside, which is going to be able to push in that cold air to create a little bit of snow on the backside of the system as it quickly races to the north, and that will likely bring a few inches to maybe a couple of inches, with isolated spots up to anywhere from a few inches to several inches of snow. So right now what we're dealing with is high wind watch is extended all the way up the pretty much through Cape Cod, through parts of eastern Massachusetts, Connecticut, parts of very far southern northeast, and also across the entire coast of Maine that extends a little bit far inland, and much of down east Maine as well. Now, I think this high wind watch may get extended up into eastern parts of far northeastern parts of Maine, just due to the fact that these winds are going to be that squall line. There's going to be a squall line that forms. It's going to be coming across as it forms right in this area right here. And it's going to move to the east along a cold front that sets up back here, and it's going to just basically go straight northeast, and it's going to be able to drag these winds all the way down to the surface, most likely. So we're going to deal with a low pressure system that sets up like right here, and it's just going to race off to the northeast, just like this, and it's going to continue very rapidly intensify as it does so, and it could likely reach bombogenesis or bomb cyclone status. So basically I'm thinking much of eastern Maine will be dealing with some sort of wind event. I think it'll be a high wind event in my opinion, so I expect by tomorrow, or maybe even later tonight, they're going to issue a high wind warning for pretty much this entire area, pretty much all of this area, and probably even up here. Now, I don't think it's going to be able to reach up in the mountains up here, but I think it's those areas will be seeing some lighter wind gusts, but they won't be as bad, so it's not as significant. But anyways, as I said, high wind watches are in effect for much of the down east coastline, southern Maine coastline, and that extends all the way down to southeastern, northeast, and New England as well for those high wind watches. We're also dealing with a flood watch for parts of, this is actually extended all the way back into Maine for much of western parts of Maine, and it's also extended into far eastern parts of New York, Vermont, that extends up into New Hampshire, Maine, all the way down into parts of western Massachusetts and western Connecticut. We are also having some winter storm watches right on the Great Lakes border, and a winter weather advisory for parts of far western New York, and then there's also a winter storm watch for parts of Wisconsin and Michigan and whatever state that is. So yeah, that's that. Alright, now we're going to get straight into the severe weather potential. So the severe weather potential for day one, there's currently a slight risk of severe weather for parts of Alabama and Georgia. and there's also marginal risk of severe weather that extends for much of the southeast for states like Alabama, Georgia, parts of Florida, along with parts of far southeastern Louisiana. And then you got that elongated stretch of just your generalized thunderstorms across much of the southeast and into the mid-Atlantic as well, and even reaching the parts of the northeast, and it will continue to go that way. So the current threats for today are your basic tornado threats. There's a small 5% risk of tornadoes for parts of Alabama and Georgia, and then that 2% risk is extended for states Louisiana, parts of southern Mississippi, parts of Alabama and Georgia, and then even parts of the Big Bend of Florida. So that's that. I think there's also a wind risk with this as well. So there's a wind risk and there's no hail risk with this. So that wind, it goes from 15% chance for the same area as that tornado risk, and the 5% for the exact same spot as the tornado risk as well. So now we're going to look at the day 2 risk. This is for tomorrow. So we're dealing this. There's a slight risk of severe weather right along the mid-Atlantic coastline, and there's also a long stretch and skinny area of the marginal risk that extends all the way into southern northeastern New England, all the way down into parts of northern Florida. And this again is going to be for those winds and also a tornado potential as well. So that tornado risk extends for that same slight area of risk. There's that 5% risk. There's also that marginal risk of severe weather, so that's that your 2% risk of tornadoes. Now, if I were to say if anything was going to happen as far as tornadoes, it's going to be right in that 5% mark, okay? It's going to be right in that 5% area. There's also a wind threat, which is going to be mostly for the damaging wind event that is going to be coming along with this strong low pressure system that is already starting to form back here in the southeast. What's going to happen is it's going to ride up here, and it's going to take a sharp turn off to the northeast. And what happens when that happens is it's going to intensify significantly and get a lot of energy, and it's going to be able to drag this squall line that comes right across easterly, and it's going to be able to drag those winds, and along with those winds it's going to bring those warm temperatures. So next is the wind, and that's what I was talking about. There's actually, for that same area of the slight risk of tornadoes, there's that 15% risk for wind there as well, and then there's that 5% risk. Now, like I said, just to mention, down here, basically cutting off around here and down south, this is your generalized thunderstorm wind risk. Up here is also your generalized thunderstorm wind risk, but it's also going to be just your normal damaging wind events from the strong nor'easters that we get in the fall time. So there's that. There might not be a hail risk, but I still think there's a hail risk in this situation because you got cold enough temperatures for it, but they still haven't put that up yet. And then that basically is that for that. Now we're going to take a look at the weather models. Alright, here we are in the weather models. So now we're going to take a look at the GFS model. We're going to go. Alright, here we are in the northeast. Okay, so it's very calm right now as of Tuesday, but you're going to notice this is your first area of low pressure coming through, relatively weak system. This is what's going to race up to north, I should say, and it's going to create a widespread area of rain, and some could be heavy at times. So that's where you're going to get your first additional quarter of an inch to around an inch of rain for most areas, and maybe even locally higher amounts as well. So you can notice that low pressure system gets up there. There also could be some freezing rain issues in the north. With that being said, you got these cold temperatures, and they're gonna just be able to just enough to create that freezing rain potential. And now it's gonna very quickly change over to rain. There's that first batch that comes through during the day on Wednesday. It's gonna be a full-on, not a washout, but I'm gonna think Wednesday night into Thursday morning is gonna be your best chance for a just complete washout in wind event. So as we continue on, so there's that secondary low that formed out there. Here's your secondary low pressure system that I was watching for. So you got that original one that's already basically not even low pressure at this point. It's just well, it doesn't have that low pressure symbol, but here's your secondary low pressure system that I was watching for. This is going to be the one that gets up here. It's going to then very quickly intensify, and it's going to very quickly race off to the northeast. And as it does so, it's going to very quickly intensify, and probably within 24 hours of this getting around this area, and basically the interior New England or northeast area is where it's going to intensify very fastly, and from there on, as it races off to the northeast within 24 hours, it's probably going to reach bomb cyclone status. So as we continue on, so there goes that, and then the squall line forms. This is what we're watching for, this squall line that forms. This is what we're watching for right here, and there's also some snow on the backside. It's not as significant. So then you get the squall line right here. This is the squall line that's going to be able to produce those damaging wind gusts. And there's going to be a low-level jet stream that is associated with this system, and that's going to be able, and with those heavy rains coming down, it's going to be probably close to torrential downpours coming out of this, and I would not be surprised if you got some thunder and lightning out of this as well. And maybe even some isolated areas of severe weather, parts of Massachusetts and along Connecticut and the Rhode Island area. That's probably where you could see some severe weather out of this. It's quite hysterical to think that you could have snow and severe weather in the same exact system in the northeast. That's a pretty rare situation, honestly. You got snow on the backside and severe weather on the front side. It's pretty rare to see. So this squall line is what we're watching for, because with those hefty rains, it's going to be able to, well, let me explain this to you. So you get those heavy rains that are coming down very fastly, right? It's going to be able to drag those winds down to the surface. So we're going to take a look at the low-level jet in a minute, and you're going to see 50, 60, 70, even upwards of 90 kilometers per hour of winds, which is I think between 70 and 80 miles per hour wind gusts that are going to be able to drag down to the surface. Now, I don't necessarily think we're going to be seeing 70 mile per hour wind gusts in like the state of Maine, like non-offshore. I think you're going to see those wind gusts between 70 and 80 miles per hour offshore, and that's where those hurricane force wind gusts are going to be possible. But again, in the southeastern New England, in Boston, I don't think it's going to get quite there, but if you're looking through Connecticut and Rhode Island here, this could be a spot where you could see wind gusts between 60 and 80 miles per hour. I don't think I'm going to get quite close to 80 miles per hour, but I could maybe possible of maybe close to 70 miles per hour, maybe between 70 and 72, 73, maybe 74 miles per hour. That's about as high as you could possibly get. Now again, in those high elevations, obviously you're going to get higher wind gusts. But with this kind of situation, I don't see a 75 mile per hour wind gust happening. I don't even see hurricane force wind gusts happening onshore. I think those are mostly going to be happening offshore. So that's that. So then the squall line's going to come through, and it's going to very quickly intensify. Here comes that squall line, and it just pushes all the way through. That squall line looks to dissipate on the GFS model, but it's still there, and then the lake effect snow turns on once again. Now we're going to take a look at the European model. With the European model, you got that first batch of just freezing rain and some rain through the day on Wednesday. It's going to be a pretty much all-day event for rain, and then the squall line comes through. Here's that squall line, and the European model has this much more intense, okay? Much more intense. So you got that large squall line even extending near the low pressure area, and this is where offshore probably some thunderstorms, but in this little tiny area of squall line is where in most intense winds. The winds are going to be coming out of the south and sometimes out of the southeast, right? You got those winds out of the southeast dragging in that warm air, and those winds and a pressure gradient of 988 here. As it continues moving, that squall line stays together in this model anyways, and then there that goes, and there's going to be some snow on the backside. Like I said, there's not going to be a whole ton of snow. And then there it goes, and that lake effect snow event turns on. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at, we'll quickly just give you a general idea of the total amount of precipitation as rainfall goes. So here comes that rainfall, a widespread 2 to 3 inches, maybe even closer to 4 inches in far southern New England. That's like areas between Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, and then a widespread 1 to 2, maybe closer to 3 inches in the mountains in Maine, and it's just an up and down the east coast of just significant rainfall, much needed rainfall. Now we're going to take a look at the GFS model for that rainfall. So the GFS model is a little bit, which usually with the GFS model you have a lot more precipitation out of it, but no, not this time. So it actually thinks, but it still agrees with a general 1 to 3 inches of rain for much of the state of Maine. You've got some pockets of 3 to 4 inches, especially in the mountains of the New Hampshire and Vermont states. You got some rainfall amounts between 2 and 4 inches in these areas, or 2 to 3 inches. I could see with the squalling coming through and those rain so intense at times, you could see between 20 and not 20, 30, but 2 and 4 inches of rain. So I think it's a good spot to look at for those rainfall amounts. And this is going to be much needed, because if we take a look at the drought, let me take a look at it real quick. Here's a drought monitor right here. Again, much needed. This is going to be a much needed rainfall. You've got extreme drought in parts of far eastern Massachusetts. You've got a moderate drought in much of the northern New England area, so much of this area, a moderate drought, and then you've got that intense severe drought in parts of much of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. So it's going to be a much needed rainfall here. Now I'm going to take a look at those temperatures, because those temperatures are going to rise. Now currently, it's going to be crazy to see 20 degrees temperatures, and then in a slow, very quick amount of time, it's going to rise in the 50s to 60s, and probably even close to 70 degrees in far southern New England. So 20s and 30s, but you're going to notice, here comes that front, like I said, close to 70 degrees in some areas. It's possible. It's very possible. And then 60 degrees, and then boom, it just crashes just like that, and those cold temperatures come on in. Now we take a look at the European model. 20s, and then boom, 60s, and then it's just crazy to see, honestly. And then those cold temperatures come crashing down. Now we're going to take a look at those winds. So here's the winds. So here's the this is the down to the surface winds coming out of the system. So you're going to see so first is Massachusetts. You get those winds between, let me see here, between 15 and all the way up to 40 miles per hour right along the immediate coast. So those, for wind gusts, you're probably talking between 60 and 80 miles per hour right there, if anything. Now, as we continue on, those winds then come up the coastline of Maine as that low pressure system races off to the north real fast, and right in the down east, not down east, but portions of southern Maine, between 20 and 30 mile per hour winds, which that equates, the equivalent of that for wind gusts is between 35 and 55 mile per hour wind gusts, with probably some wind gusts closer to 55 to 60, maybe even 70 miles per hour right along the immediate shoreline. And then the last area to see the highest of the winds is going to be the down east portions. And the down east Maine, I think, could see the highest wind gusts out of the entire state of Maine. So then then the wind field expands. Then you've got these winds between 15 and all the way up, probably even close to 35, maybe even edging close to 40 miles per hour sustained winds. So to break it down into more simplistic terms, 25 to 35 miles per hour across much of the down east coastline and into eastern parts of Maine. And then right along the immediate coastline, I'd say probably Ellsworth down to the coastline, 30 to maybe close to 40, maybe even right along the very immediate coastline, 45 mile per hour sustained winds, which will equivalent to between wind gusts of and just 50 miles per hour all the way up to 70 miles per hour very easily with this just impressive storm. And then there's pockets of 50 mile per hour sustained winds off the coast of Maine into the Gulf of Maine. So, and that's going to equivalent to wind gusts over 80 miles per hour. So that's quite insane if you think about it. East European model is going to be a little bit lighter on it, but that's not what I was seeing earlier today. But here we go into Wednesday night. Yeah, it's a little bit later of it. So first, you're going to see those winds coming into portions of southern New England. This includes Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, areas like that. And then the secondary area is going to be eastern Maine and parts of southwestern Maine. And you're going to see that. And right in the Gulf of Maine is where those winds are going to be really intense. So here we go. And then those winds come in, again, between 15 and 40 miles per hour winds sustained. So there's that. So that's the European model. Now we can take a look at the actual wind gusts. So let me grab that real quick. Alright, here we are. So here's the wind gusts. So generally early in the evening, 3 p.m. Generally wind gusts between 30 and 45 miles per hour right along the coastline. And then these winds are going to slowly increase, and I'm going to watch this area through portions of I'm going to mark out the entire area that we're going to be watching for next. So here we are. So now we're going to go through 5 p.m. Those winds really ramp up. 61 Hartford, Connecticut, 52 Boston, 57 Portland, 43 Bangor. 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Then here comes those winds, 8 p.m., 69 Portland, 67 Boston, 53 Bangor, 56 Patton, 46 Edmundston. 9 p.m., 10 p.m., those winds, 11 p.m., those winds come across. Here comes the heaviest of the winds, I think, across for the main area. Edmundston, 56 miles per hour, Patton, 62, 67 Bangor. And then 3 a.m. those winds are still pretty gusty across far down eastern Maine. Those winds could be gusting as high as 60 to 70 miles per hour at times. And then on the backside of it between 30 and 40 miles per hour. And then from there on those winds calm down. We can also take a look at the GFS model, but you already know the GFS model is going to do with this. It's going to make it way more extreme than it actually is. So 40s to near 80 miles per hour offshore, 45 to 50 miles per hour across portions of the southern part of the coastal parts of Maine. 6 p.m., 7 p.m. those winds rise out of the southeast. 62 Portland, 55 Bangor, 60 Boston. And then here comes the heaviest of the winds. 62 Bangor, 58 Portland, 58 Patton, 47 Edmundston. And then those winds shift more off to the east, down east coastline, probably getting closer to 70 miles per hour, and then that's the end of it. And then this whole thing goes off, and it's out of here by later in the morning on Thursday. And then it's still going to be gusty out of the west, but it's not going to be anywhere near where we're going to be seeing. Just your generalized gusty winds. So there's that. Now we're going to take a look at the severe weather threat. Now, I don't think I'm going to take a look at the severe weather threat for portions of southern New England. I don't think I'm going to take a look at the severe weather threat at all. So I think this is really going to do it for this video. But also we will take a look at the snowfall amounts. I just don't think severe weather is going to be a big issue for southern New England. I think it's going to be mostly just a windswept rain. So we'll take a look at the snowfall amounts, as there is going to be some snowfall on the backside, obviously. So here we go. So here we go. We'll go through Friday. Again, just your generalized areas of 8 to 12 inches, maybe some areas between 4 and 12 inches across far western New York, right along those areas of the Great Lakes. Maybe 1 to 3 inches in far northwestern Maine, like in the mountains and the higher elevations. And then as we take a look at the European model, basically the same thing. I'll go through Friday. So basically between 5 and 8 inches for parts of right along that border of the Great Lakes and New York, and then up in northern New York areas between 4 and 8 inches, and then a dusting to maybe a few inches of snow in parts of far northwestern Maine and into Vermont and New Hampshire, and then that's that. Alright, here's your low-level jet stream. This is Thursday, okay? This isn't really a low-level jet stream, but it's close enough that it's gonna be about close enough as I can get with pivotal weather, anyways. So here's unless if I can get lower. So here we are. So you can see how intense these winds are, especially across Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and parts of Maine. You can see how intense that wind is just above the surface here. And these winds are gusts, not the gusts, but the wind in general is between just as low as 60 miles per hour all the way up to close to 140 miles per hour, which is intense. And then this is associated with this squall front, and then that comes through, and it even continues in parts of eastern Maine as well. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, what to watch out for? Heavy, hefty rains, probably a solid area between 2 and 4 inches. I would not even be shocked if we hit areas of 5 inches in southern New England, maybe in those areas where that squall line is going to come through, and that rain is going to be continuing through much of the day. And then I think in parts of Maine, there's a solid chance of at least 2 to 4 inches of rain. But the only reason I'm saying that is because in southern New England, in parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and areas like that, and even into areas of New Hampshire and Vermont, where the squall line comes through, already with that rain that already came through the day tomorrow, and then that additional squall line that comes through, obviously that squall line is going to be able to drop at least a quarter of an inch all the way up to an inch of rain in a very short amount of time, because the rainfall is just going to be so intense at one time. And with that being said, it's going to be able to drop that rainfall amount between 2 and 4 inches. And why I'm saying maybe isolated spots of 5 inches of rain is because those rain bands with that squall line coming through are going to be so intense that I would not be shocked if we saw some areas of 5 inches of rain. So yeah, flooding, no doubt about it. In the western mountains of Maine, I think this system is not as worse as the one we saw last December, where we saw the same scenario. Not the same scenario, but we saw areas of 5 inches of rain even into northwestern parts of Maine in those mountainous areas. This is not the same scenario, but it's very close to it. So I think in the mountains we could still see between 2 and 4 inches of solid heavy rain. Now, the snowpack hasn't really had time to melt because it's been so cold lately that the snow is just not melting at all. So that with that rise of the warm air, 50s and 60 degrees, along with that, that heavy rainfall, you'll be able to melt that snow. And originally, before this squall line comes through, that hefty rain that comes through at first, or that light to moderate rain that comes through on Wednesday during the day, we'll be able to soften up that snowpack with those temperatures in the 40s. It'll slowly melt, and then once that squall line comes through, it'll be able to melt the majority of it. I still think there'll be some left, maybe a few inches or up to maybe close to 8 inches, maybe 10 inches of snow. I think most of that will get melted down to 8 to 10 inches. So that'll cause some flooding. I don't think we're talking about extreme flooding here, but I'm thinking we're talking about some minor to localized areas of flooding. Nothing like we saw in the last December event, but something similar to that. Not as bad though. And then with that squall line coming through and that low-level jet stream with those winds intense, I think that hefty rainfall is going to bring those winds down to the surface, where we could easily gust over 50 miles per hour. Bottom line is 50 miles per hour. Then you're talking between 60 and 70 miles per hour, and I would not even be shocked if we hit hurricane force wind gusts, especially right along the coastline, if not offshore. So yeah, there's that. And then there's that severe weather potential, but I'm not going to mention in this video because I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, because I think most of this is not. I think most of it is just associated with the squall line. Obviously, there's probably going to be some thunder and lightning involved with this. That would not shock me at all. But it's going to be a very intense squall line that's going to be able to drag those winds all the way down to the surface, very gusty winds, probably some pretty decent amount of power outages out of the system. I'm thinking between 40 and 50,000 people without power is probably a little over total. I think a solid between 10 and 20, maybe even 30,000 power outages is probably around, right around that area that I think it might be. But who knows? We could see power outages between 40,000 and 50,000 people without power. It's definitely possible. But yeah, so there's that. So yeah, you got the damaging winds, you got the heavy rainfall, and then you've got that severe weather potential, especially in parts of far. That marginal risk doesn't even reach Massachusetts. It's mostly going to be for southern parts of Rhode Island, parts of Connecticut, areas like that, and parts of southern New York is that severe weather potential just for those damaging wind gusts. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, so all together you get that snow, you got the wind, and you got the severe weather potential and the flooding. All of that combined, it makes for a pretty disastrous storm. And I'll probably make another update tomorrow, depending if there needs to be another update, because things can change. But that's all I really have for this video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to never miss another upload. And without further ado, like always, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.